Hey, strong people, it's Kalle Beck here. This is the 100th episode of the Strong Talk podcast. For better or worse, we've brought these out to you, and I appreciate everyone who's listened, downloaded, subscribed, given a rating on iTunes, etc. I'm going to keep this somewhat brief. I was planning on doing a long introduction for the 100th episode, but I am deathly sick, and I feel like crap, and I also didn't get as much time to edit this episode as I would have liked. This week's guest is Glen Ross. Glen Ross is a legendary strongman. He placed third at the Arnold Classic way back in the day, I believe 2003. We talk all about it. Multiple time world's strongest man competitor. He promotes Ultimate Strongman. He has the Ultimate Strongman World Championships coming up. It's ultimatestrongman.tv, Ultimate Strongman all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, all of that. And you have the best of the best, and he puts on some amazing shows out in the UK and everywhere. And we talk about mostly about promoting, his thoughts on the sport, some of his old training and stories, how he got into it. And, it's really an honor to interview some of these, athletes that I remember when I barely knew what strongman was, watching them on TV, and to be able to get to talk to them and chat and become acquaintances, friends, however you want to put it, is pretty cool on my end. But my voice is already starting to go. Gonna rest up, drink some more tea, and just enjoy this chat with the legend, the Big Daddy, Glen Ross himself. Welcome to the Strong Talk podcast. I'm Kalle Beck, joined by Glen Ross himself. How you doing, Glen?
Well, listen, it's great to be speaking to you finally, Kalle, and certainly your page as well. It's a great motivation for a lot of people, and I'm a bit of a fan and some great stuff that you put on it.
Well, I appreciate that. I've been watching your World's Strongest, your clips on World's Strongest Man. You always stood out, and I want to get to that. But first, I want to just make sure to, let everyone know what you're up to right now. Running Ultimate Strongman as a promoter. What's a big show you got coming up?
Yeah, well, we've got our World Championship 2 coming up. It's our grand final, and the 12 finalists have been gathered now over competitions we've had throughout the summer, and it's going to be on February the 10th. So I'm really looking forward to that. Like I said, we've got some fantastic guys. Martinez Lysis, Sadrunas, Lala, Lawrence Chalet will be there to defend his title after winning it last year. And obviously you've got your own homegrown boy from the United States, Nick Hodge, and we're big fans of developing a young athlete coming through. And we invited Nick off the back of his World Championship win for under 23s last year to Summer Mania, and he managed to qualify for a place.
Yeah, he did great at Summer Mania. I remember.
Yeah, the crowd loved him as well. Great ambassador.
Yeah, he's great. I remember, when I was just competing on the amateur level here, Nick and his brother Zach, they stood out to me right away when they were 20, 21 years old. I think I shared a photo that I took in 2014 with them at Nationals, and I'm like, everyone's going to remember these two guys' names. So I think I was right about that, because they haven't even really gotten started in the scheme of things.
Well, we're always looking out for, new blood coming through, and, Ultimate Strongman's done that for quite some years now. I mean, we even found Ed Hall in the beginning, and then he became UK's strongest man, and now he's won World's Strongest Man. So, it's a real testimony to the show. Terry Holmes is another one. His first big international was through our brand, so we're looking at a young talent, Iron BB's another guy we found as well recently, and he seems to have started to rock the world now. Tom Stoltman, Paul Smith, they're all new young lads coming through the ranks, and these are the future, and they're great ambassadors of sport, and we wish them well as they continue on their journey.
Yeah. How do you go about, scouting? Because I think, like you said, some of the names you mentioned right now, and there's a lot more that have come through, Ultimate Strongman, like you said. But so how do you go about, looking out for those, new talents that aren't recognized, but just waiting for that spot?
Well, it's a lot to do. You watch a little things online, but I've got a lot of people, ambassadors around the world for the brand that do qualification routes now and stuff like that. And, a lot of them are ex-comrades, if you like, or competitors from the sport. And, they've got an eye, like any good football coach, to spot a young talent. And, for every 3 or 4 that you do spot, there's normally one golden nugget, if you like, that can really, really produce the goods. And, I've been fortunate now. We've found quite a few in the last few years. And I think the sport's in a really good place. And people, certainly like Nick Hodge, when you talk to people like him, he's very humble. He's got his feet on the ground. He's very focused. I think the sport's in a good place with competitors like him in the United States. And in fact, I'm going far to say, and I'm not just saying it because we're trying to give you the big pat on the back, but I think the United States competitors in general are some of the best in the world now, with Robert Opers, Big Eric Dawson. He's a big guy, yet really, really got his feet in the ground, really humble, great ambassador of sport, and I'm a big fan of him. And obviously the legendary Brian Shaw, what can you say about him? He's starting to prove now that he's looking to get Sir Guinness's records, and you can't discount him. He's the sort of guy that will continue to break records, and there's still a few more years left in him.
Yeah, I think Shaw definitely has a lot more years left, but the depth of talent in the United States is just it's really blown up, and like we just had Travis Ortemeyer just competed for like the first time in 5 years, and I think it was brilliant. people like him, doing some of the, he did international shows all over the place, 5-10 years ago, and like him and like Maroon Day and stuff kind of really started to put USA Strongman on the map again. And then I remember them going back and forth because it was kind of a lull. I think a little bit more. Obviously, there's good competitors, but not compared, to today. There wasn't the depth when you were competing more, at Worlds that era. I don't think USA had the depth at all. And I think some of them, some young guys, they kind of sparked it, and everyone else has just kind of kept up, just kept building from there, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the big Johnny Penny and all those competitors, God rest them, they're all gone now, some of them. And you had some really good depth a few years ago, and like the Texas Stone Man coming on the block, and obviously Poundstone and people like that. The future started looking good for the USA, and then Brian Shaw come on the scene. And I remember competing with Brian Shaw at the World Strongman Cup when he was just a kid. When you first look at this guy, it was just raw talent. But he was a nugget. You could see clearly. If you're a gold miner, that nugget stood out. In that pool, and he's proved to be. He's going to be, I think, one of the greatest of all time before he's finished.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go back a bit. I think it would be fun just how you've been around strength training and strongman for so long. Is how do you actually get your start in lifting at all, and what sparked that interest?
Well, I was a boy soldier, and then went on to being a man soldier. As a young man at 16, I joined up, and training was right at the forefront, obviously in the services. But a good friend of mine, Paul Sarrington, not mind me mentioning him here on the podcast. We're still friends to this day. We speak to each other regularly. But we used to sneak into the gym. We were that addicted to it. Even when they closed the gym, we used to sneak through the window to get into the gym. And 2 times we got caught. And I can remember my staff sergeant just giving up on us, you know. He said, look, I can't shout at people that want to get, you know, more physically strong and bigger, you know. So he let us train away, and we ended up got access to the gym, so we didn't have to climb to the window anymore. So that's how it all started. I continued on, done my service, done my time, left at 21, and I wanted to pursue my strength. The bodybuilding I was doing as well, so I'd done a bit of a show as an interest for it, become Mr. Ireland, started doing a bit of powerlifting and lifting, and realised I was stronger than anybody else in the gym. And back in 1994, obviously Gary Taylor had won the World's Strongest Man the year before that. I decided to see if I can get hold of him and ask a bit of tips how to pull a truck for charity. And I managed to get hold of Gary. He invited me then to Peterhead after I told him what lifts I was doing. Went to Peterhead, and less than 18 months later, I won my first competition. And then literally a year after that, I won the IFSA UK Strongest Man. And 6 months after that, I become Britain's Strongest Man. Quite a good career with Europe's Strongest Man title, 10 British titles, third in the Arnold, 5 World Strongest Man appearances. I could add a lot more, but I refused to go after the 5 because I felt they were a bit more Jane Fonda. I was in an era of where it was more speed with the Yanni Vertmans of the world and Yoko Hula. It wasn't statically strong like it has now come back again with Sabrina's and people like that. And I feel Ultimate Strongman has brought World's Strongest back to that era with us pushing ultimate strength in our TV shows. They feel like they've had to step up to the plate to this raw power sort of lifting, you know, which is good because, in my opinion, strongman is first and foremost to find the strongest, not to find the fittest. It's about how far you can pull something or distance carried. How big you can lift, or how many reps you can do. That's how you find the strongest man on earth, not how quick you can do 100 meters.
Yeah, there's a lot of shows. It was definitely a sprint there for a bit, more like, and I see them, you know, at certain levels now where they look more like track meets in a way with weights. So
yeah,
and
looking back when I quit World's Strongest Man, you know, and a bit controversial, but when I did finally quit it with Dunning, Douglas Edmonds hat and Ibsen and stuff like that, you know, I was lucky enough I won the European Championships the following year, and Terry Todd and Davey Webster invited me to the Arnold, even though it was a complete IFSA show, and they didn't want me there. But that was my opportunity to prove how strong, you know, the daddy was at the time, and I went over and got 2 world records that day, and, you know, 1 point of Ferichik. There was 5 world strongest men in the Arnold that year, you know, and, you know, I proved with only a couple of points off Sagunas that I could have won the show if it wasn't for that stupid throwing event they had with the medicine ball, you know, because I walked away at the Arnold in 2005, and in my heart, I felt I was the strongest in earth then.
Yeah, it's hard to argue, especially at the time. Just looking how you know, you strict press the Poland's axle, and you know, the Hummer tire deadlift. You set the world record in that as well.
People say back then that Sabrinas was the most statically strong man on earth. You know, and I beat him in the deadlift, I beat him in the press. You know, in my heart, I walked off that platform, you know, only for a medicine ball throw. I should have won the title.
Yeah, maybe if it was a more traditional event like a the yoke or something.
The following year they brought in the stones, you know, and, you know, but listen, that's the way sport is, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I had my own days in the sun, and, you know, and now my career is sort of finished now with strength. I've devoted the rest of my life now to promoting the sport, and let's get it in a good place, you know.
Yeah, definitely, and you're doing a great job of that. I want to go back. You said you're climbing in through the window. I think that's like the exact story Arnold had, where he said he was in the military and he had to sneak in and get a.
Really?
I, I
I didn't know that.
I heard him telling that like on that one time, so that's funny. Um, and I know you did some bodybuilding as well. Then you were by far like the biggest competitor. So when you decided to go from doing like the physique style and you know competitions and go into just pure strength, why what was it that made you just decide to put on so much mass as a means to a goal? Like that's a way to do it. We see other people that don't do it that way, but like what was the thought
Yeah.
process? Obviously it worked, but what was the thought process, and how did you, like, what kind of gains were there in your body weight? Because I see a lot of rumors of how big you were at certain points. I don't know what's true though.
Yeah, I was a big boy at certain points. I got myself into a dark place at one point where I had to really shed some weight, and I did so because obviously I knew how to shed weight, but I did get myself into a real dark place in my weight. But, as a bodybuilder, it was a tough sport, a very tough sport, and I totally respect any of the bodybuilders that do it because there's nothing as hard as a diet, For the strongman, it's not what you got in your fridge, it's how many fridges you got in your house, and that's the way I seem to really, really fall into the sport, I enjoyed eating all my vegetables and my steaks and just basically, an open menu, you know what I mean? Because, when I was hungry, I ate, and for some reason it made me look bigger, Back when I did it, the science wasn't what it is now,
Sure.
And certainly the sport has changed. It certainly has changed, Back when we did it, not too many people had equipment. And now every gym in the country has a flower, a fire, something to drag,
Yep.
So it's great the way the sport has evolved, but in some ways, with its involvement, some of the traditions of sport, I feel, have been lost, For example, Symbiotes, looking like CrossFit Symbiotes, and in big competitions, weights being on them, stuff like that, things that people can't relate to. Farmers walks, stacked with loads of weights, and you're doing national titles. Some of that makes me cringe. And I think, some promoters need to go out there and do just a little bit better. Just think a little bit more out of the box. Start to come back with some traditional stuff, like a heavy rock lift. Make your farmers like a gas bottle so there's no weights hanging out off them. People relate to those sort of weights. There's some things you can do that don't cost a lot of expense, but just to the crowd, to the fans, they can relate to that stuff. And that's the wonderful thing, what a monster car is. When people relate to some of these big objects,
Absolutely. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of thought that goes into the production of the Ultimate Strongman shows. You got pyrotechnics, you got athlete introductions, you got showy events. So, and I can tell, like you said, you're trying to go to the Arnolds and decided to stop going to World's Strongest Man, that you're someone who takes you're very passionate about how the sport's presented. So you took it in your own hands to do it in a certain way. So what are some of the things that you've tried to implement, with Ultimate Strongman to make it still have that show aspect, and how's it evolved as you've went on, and you've gained experience as a promoter?
Well, since I started promoting back in 1999, my very first show, the Husafeld was my biggest ever memory as a strongman when Rick O'Keefe lifting that rock, and his eyes bleeding, and his nose dust, and him carrying it down some city, and that for me is the real image of strongman. These superhuman guys doing what we do best, superhuman stuff with objects that people can honestly look at and think, wow, that's an awesome feat of strength. I understand what weight that is. So that was the first thing that was at the forefront of my mind. We must keep strongman as strongman objects and not weights, So I'm very much into event design. I'm constantly thinking of new events. And the great Jamie Reeves for World's Strongest Man was very much like that as well. He was constantly have an engineer background, and I used to love some of Jamie's stuff that he used to think of in World's Strongest Man. Very guy used to think of some really, really awesome bits of kit. And never did you ever see a super yoke in World's Strongest Man going down with weight, So when you're doing a national title, in your country, I mean, I'm going to say openly now, think about that, please, put it out there.
Sure.
Have a bit of pride. Let's have a few lanes. Do a head-to-head. Let the fans start to enjoy it, and suddenly you'll start getting crowds coming because people like races at times, but heavy races. Just the presentation of the sport is so important. Thinking of new tasks is so important. And every year in UK Strongest Man, I always had a new event. And everybody will tell you that. It's going into its 15th year this year. And there's not a year goes by I don't put an extra new event or two new events in for the guys, because there's 13 disciplines to find the UK Strongest Man over 3 days. And it's important to keep the athletes motivated, but it's more important to make sure the fans are motivated with your sport. If they constantly see super yokes with weights on and farmers walks with weights on, suddenly your sport becomes a tar flip of farmers, a super yoke and stones, and then becomes boring.
Yeah, it almost becomes it's so easy to guess. It's almost like powerlifting that you're running with weights.
Yeah, stale and static. It's not strongman, You've got to start thinking of different tasks, I mean, obviously it's good to keep a couple of traditional events in the competition.
Sure.
But at the same time, think a little bit out of the box when you do it, and also think about lanes as well. A couple of lane events always goes well, certainly for the title, a head-to-head, and maybe start the competition with a head-to-head. People like that, they like it, and the fans really start to love it. I mean, suddenly, America's got loads of competitors, but you're lacking your crowd. So maybe making the show a bit more entertaining might create more fans.
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot, and I think that's part of the answer. Is just I think we have more participants than anywhere else, but we don't have any shows where there's like real spectators other than people that are at an event for other reasons. Like it's at the Arnold Expo, so there's 100,000 or whatever people there anyways, and then they see it going on. And the Arnold does a good job of, the shows look visually impressive for sure, the events. But
the Arnold Classic does, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking. Yeah, the one in Ohio.
The Arnold Classic does, yeah. The one that Terry Todd does is world class, and complete testimony to Terry and Jan. What a great job they do there. And they're always thinking of tradition, thinking of new concepts. And what brings that is interest for the athlete and for the fans. And that's what makes the contest so great.
Yeah, and I think something that they've done, like you said, they're always thinking of, tradition and bringing new things, but they look to the past. There's so much history. If you really look back at the old feats of strength, that you don't even have to invent new things. Just look at what's worked before, and people forget. Like I see new idea. People just even people have a short-term memory, so you just have to look back a little bit, and it's a whole new thing for everyone else. Even though it was around even just 5 years ago, people forget that quick.
Yeah.
So speaking of events, what kind of events do you have for the Ultimate Strongman Finals, which people can look forward to?
Well, we're going to kick off with Farmer's Walk, which are gas bottles, so they'll be banging off the legs. There'll not be a fixed frame. So when they pick these gas bottles up, they'll do the old traditional way. So they'll be banging off their thighs. They carry 40 meters, and they weigh 150 kilos each. So it'll be a tough start to kick off the show. Some people think, 300 gram, I can do that. Well, you might be able to, but when you deal with gas bottles, it's a different kettle of fish because they bang off your thighs, and you've got to go up and turn with the gas bottles, not let go of them and bring them back down again if you want to do it quickly,
Yeah.
So we're going to kick off with that, and then I've got a log medley press. So I've got a series of logs, finishing on a 200 kilo log, so there's 5 logs to the press, and we'll be doing that head to head. So it'll be like a race of 5 logs, how quickly they can do it. And obviously we've got some of the best pressers on the planet in the competition. So with Matthias Kilikowski's in it and Svidunas. So I think there's going to be at least a couple of guys finish the 200 kilo log. So we're going to be kicking off for that. And then we've got the silver dollar lift, and the official world record on the silver dollar that was designed by Jamie Reeves in World's Strongest Man, which is the silver dollar box. Mm-hmm. Is actually held by Ken Braun of California.
Yeah, I saw him do it.
And I was there myself. And very, very strong guy, Ken, good lad. And that record's 505, Mm-hmm. So we're going to see who'll do that at the show. And we'll break the official world record in the silver dollar. So that'll be done. And then the other events we have are the tire flip, which is a nice additional earth-moving tire event. Bit of a race to kick off. And then the final event of the day will be the Ultimate Strongman Husafelt. And that'll be a head-to-head event for the final, where they'll pick up the Husafelt and try the first one as they can. So it becomes very close, so it's going to be a case of who wants it the most, carry these big stones. So, again, they're all objects that people can relate to, visually see. Some traditional world records are going to be broken, and it's going to be a final not to be missed. Because, again, with Kalle, probably, if you're going to name the top 14 guys on the planet, we've got 12 of them in the final. So it's going to be an interesting show. 7 guys could win it, I reckon, out of the 12. So I couldn't really call it, to be honest with you. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think doing the Husafeld as the last event, it'll be good because it's such a unpredictable event. One wrong grip. Each stone's different. Just how you grip it from one to the other, and just one wrong move, you don't set up right, it's done. There's no room for error in events like that. And who knows if you picked up like a little injury or something, where like a stone run you can kind of you just have to place these 3 stones.
This is the thing with Ultimate Strongman. People say, a couple of people come on the post, where's the Atlas stones? Well, Strongman isn't just one event called Atlas stones. I mean, I have over 60 disciplines in the Daddy Baker compound, and, the stone, whatever form or shape it comes in, it's a great finale, and we're finishing on a head-to-head event with one guy will lift the Hoosa belt, the other one will, and who wants it the most, who wants to carry it the furthest, will get the title. I mean, it'll be really good, especially when it comes down to the wire.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk quickly about your own training, and like I think it was also the second year you went to the Arnold. You pretty much strict pressed the dumbbell. What was it, like 10 times? So your static power was so strong. What are some of, like, even just like your best lifts, even if they were just in the gym, like on like shoulder press and some stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, I've in the gym I've done a 295 bench raw. I've deadlifted 410 raw with my hands, no straps, and I've squatted 415 kilos raw with no belt either. So
yeah, that's impressive. What about like I think your overhead strength was intense, like a strict like overhead press.
I mean, I know people can do 200 kilo shoulder presses and stuff, but my best sort of axle would have been in 195, but I wouldn't have done any of this dipping or anything, just pressed it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was a different time then. Like back then there was
time,
people weren't.
My log, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my best log was 185 kilos. I did in competition a couple of times, but back then that was world record standard, So
yeah, like anyone going over four. Yeah, anyone going over 400 was pretty much unheard of back then.
Yeah.
So even being close to it.
Close to dreamers was all.
Yeah, I think I was getting in a conversation that I shared it yesterday. I shared it a couple days ago with like the 10 heaviest logs of all time done in a contest, and he holds 8 of them. So it's just it's intense.
Yeah.
I don't think too many people just realize like that's some real dominance in one event right there.
And listen, a lot of people don't realize as well that Sedruna slapped both of his patellas.
Sure.
In the early years, So he's come back from 2 major injuries to do what he has done is a phenomenal thing. And I don't think we'll ever see the likes of Sedruna Savickas again. Certainly not in my lifetime, I'm a complete ambassador to the sport. He's kept his feet on the ground. He's done a lot for his Lithuanian nation within the sport. And he's done a lot for the sport of strongman in general, We've been in a good place with a couple of great athletes, and it's great to see some of these young athletes now. They've got a lot to live up to, but, like I said, there's a couple out there, and I'm feeling very comfortable that we're in a good place with them,
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, you see a lot of the young athletes. Who should people be paying attention to that they might not have known, that they haven't went to, more of the televised, contests out there that you have your eye on? Obviously, as a promoter, you might not want to tip your hand because other people might snatch them up from you. But, if you're willing to share, like, who are some of the people that intrigue you that you see coming up?
I don't mind saying it. I really think Tom Strongman is a potential world's strongest man. He certainly has the tools to be there. Certainly to be on the podium. He needs to keep his feet on the ground, keep his head right, and focus on the job at hand. He has the potential of doing it. Another big guy that we obviously launched last year was Aaron Beebe. He certainly has the potential to go all the way as well. And one of the guys that doesn't have all the natural, I would call natural talents, I'm a soccer fan, by the way, of your George Best and your Kalle, who were naturally taught, he's a worker like Ronaldo to become good. You know, he's not a natural like Messi.
Sure.
And that's the like of Nick Hadge and Paul Smith of England, who's just won the junior worlds. You know, those guys have done all their homework and they work hard to be as good as they are. Whereas Tom doesn't realise the talent he has, nor does Sam Beebe. And they need to keep their feet on the ground, get focused on the job in hand, and get where they need to go, you know. But like a lot of these people that have natural talent, sometimes they can go a bit wayward, you know. But certainly Tom's got a good woman by his side, and that does help a lot, you know. Having a good woman by your side in the sport, like I had with my wife, it certainly does help you. Big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're going with that, when you're talking about people that are hard workers, I had a feeling you're going to bring up the name Paul Smith, and I agree with that. It's there's always the two different types of strongman, and when it's scary is when someone you combine both, right? When someone that has all that natural talent then sits down and does all their homework and puts their nose down and works, then you get, I think, like the likes of like someone like Brian Shaw, who he can rattle off any, statistic out there and knows everything about everything to do with the sport. But
Brian was born to lift, he had the natural talent in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? As was Sedunas, but I think at the same time, even Sedunas had the natural frame, talent to do what he did. He's done his homework throughout the years to become as good as he has, So I think there was a lot of work with Sedunas to get what he did become. But once he got to that level, there's been nobody ever been touched him for a decade, was there? He was just on his own, really.
Yeah, I think there's no way that you can get by with being at the highest level for 20, pretty much over 20, since like 98 or something with Zydrunas.
Yeah.
He did like his first world somewhere around there. Like you can't be doing it at that high of a level for that long without doing your homework as well. There's plenty of other athletes that show great promise and they go away in 2 or 3 years and they had a nice run, but that's kind of what separates it is the ones that, really dig deep and become students of the sport, so to speak.
But the great thing about the sport now, and what I will say, as an athlete, sport's never been in a better place because you've got your Champions League, you've got the Arnold, you've got, Giants, and you've got Ultimate Strongman. So there's a lot of good shows for a good range of athletes now, and plenty of opportunities to compete, plenty of opportunities to get good titles, plenty of opportunities to earn a bit of money. But what I will say here on this podcast, never keep your feet on the ground when it comes to any money in strongman. It's only ever a well-paid hobby. I see a lot of young lads I've seen over the years where they quit everything just to become a strongman. There's no real strongman millionaires out there, to speak of. Anybody ever earned any money in strongman, they've done it through investments or whatever they've earned with their strongman hobby, if you get what I mean. So it's not like being a football star or a soccer star where these huge checks happen. Remember, you do strongman for the sport first, and a bit of money will come after.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's possible. Like even the people that are making a full-time living off of it, if they added up the hours, with the training and everything, it's they could probably make a lot more money if they just went into business and ran a company.
Of course.
Yeah, even that. So yeah, it definitely needs to do that. And I think, like you said, the ones that have actually made money, it's from investments from their money. I think that's a good rule of thumb for anyone out there that, easy come, easy go, unless you hold on to it. So you want to be smart. If you do get, a big influx of money and you win some shows and you got some sponsorships, you want to try to use that so it sets you up.
Mariusz Pudzianowski never become a millionaire out of strongman, but what he did earn of his sponsorship deals and the shows that he did win, he invested in a few shops and then bought some more shops, you know?
Exactly.
And that's how he grew with his money, you know what I mean? So people say, well, Marius made his money, but he didn't actually physically make his million off Strongman, but the Strongman money helped him make his million, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, it just helps you get that little leg up, and then depends on what you do with it. You know, you can easily you could easily just go out and buy a couple cars and go to a couple nightclubs and have a year-long party. It's not really going to do you much, but it's smart advice for
it's very
anyone
like
out
the
there.
sports as well, Charles. It's a lot of young lads are there. They want the fast fix. I want to be champion of this within 18 months. It's not going to happen like that.
No.
You know, I was in the sport 16 years, and the reason was, you know, I took it in stages. My achievements in stages, and then you'll find, you know, it's not how you start, it's how you finish your career, you know what I mean? So the back end is what people remember. It's not the beginning, because, you know, no point in burning out, you know, because just like the Kurgan said in Highlander, you burn out and fade away, you know. People will not remember you know what I mean?
Sure.
So you have a bit of longevity and give yourself a few more titles, you know.
Yeah, it all ends eventually, and I think that's great. Why, you know, people can, you know, model like what you've done, staying in the sport, helping new talent come up, putting on good shows, and progressing everything further. You know, putting heavier contests in there kind of makes everyone else rise up, and you know, being the change you want to see a little bit. And I think I really have to thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Is there anything else you want to add before we get going?
Yeah, I think what I wanted to say to certainly all the Strongman fans out there, you know, thank you for supporting Strongman, and I hope you continue to come to the shows. I'm very humbled to come into the Ultimate Strongman shows, and indeed all the other Strongman organizations. You know, it's great to see the sport growing as a fan base. You know, but most of all, to all the Strongman competitors, you know, never give up on your dreams, you know, never give up on your dreams, you know, and it's great taking part, but people only remember winners, so always strive to be the best.
Absolutely, that's great. Yeah, I think it's a good point to add that, you know, people listening out there that want to support the sport and that are in it, there's a lot of people in it, but to really get it to the next level, you need people in the seats. You know, there's going to be a select few that get to be on the field, but you need to go out there and purchase your tickets and support Strongman. That's how it really gets to the next level.
And the last one, obviously, just to say, you know, hope to see us all at the World Championship for our grand final. It's on February 10th at Leicester Arena. And click on the ultimatestrongman.tv to get your tickets.
Appreciate it, Glenn. It's been a pleasure. We'll stay in touch, and good luck with your show and everything you have. And thanks for everyone for listening to the Strong Talk podcast. I'm Kalle Beck, and you know, follow your dreams and support the sport.